Beyond interesting when you talk about the defensive prowess of the Miami Heat, the Bam block, you talk about Jimmy Butler clutch play, the chess moves being made, and the possibility of Gordon Hayward, and I know we're going to touch on it, possibly playing in this game. It's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, they need Gordon Hayward tonight. This is a 911 call because you know the history of the NBA. Down 3-0, it ain't happening. And look, Marcus Smart and those guys are right. They should be angry with each other because they very well should be 1-1 at the least. But more importantly, they probably should be up 2-0, Karan and Chris.
Karan, I just realized something. Before we get to serious business, I think I saw like an Emmy and an Oscar behind you. I mean, we're really getting the view of your house right now, man. It's an incredible accomplishment.
Karan, you better watch it. Don't give him your address, Karan.
Oh, man, appreciate it, man. Hey, look, I'm not going to leave my pen, man. He might try to break in my crib, man. I got to watch it.
But I'm telling you, don't give him your address.
That's messed up, man. We family on this show. That's what we're doing. Okay.
That's who gets your 100%. Family.
Well, the Celtics looks like they're closer to getting a member of their family back. They've had issues with those huge leads in the Miami comebacks, but Gordon Hayward, who's been out since the first game of the first round, nearly a month, Brad Stevens says that he was questionable before, but is a game-time decision for tonight's Game 3.
Nah, that's just him. He just tells us how he feels, but he's played 3-on-3 the last couple of days, and I would anticipate he'll be available, but it's going to be his call, and that's really based on how he feels. Like, he's a great passer, can score the ball, he can switch all the different positions, so he gives us a lot of defensive flexibility there. He just gives us a lot, and I think that he's always been a guy that provides a great sense of stability. So I think, obviously, he's coming back from a 4-week break, or 4.5-week break, so we don't expect him to be a world beater, but I think his presence helps us.
Well, that's Brad Stevens, and he mentioned some defense and being able to create some offense and possibly getting Gordon Hayward back. Rebecca Harlow joins the show now, right before this tip between the Celtics and the Heat for Game 3. Rebecca, we just heard again from Brad Stevens and what he's saying about Gordon Hayward and his progress. What do you know about this situation and the latest development?
Yes, Chris. Well, the Celtics just announced that he is available to play tonight, and he actually just took the floor a couple minutes ago. So I've been watching him move around out there, and he looks great. He's got that bounce back, and he doesn't seem to be struggling in any way with that right ankle. So you can expect that he will play tonight. Now, a couple of things. He will be on a minutes restriction, and what you have to remember there is that he has been out for a month, since August 17th. So again, you heard Stevens say that he might not be back in his typical form, but he can produce for this team tonight. Also, interesting to note, he has been taking contact for 5 or 6 days now, in addition to that 3-on-3 play. And here's one thing about Hayward. We know how competitive he is. He knows that he doesn't want to go down 0-3 against this team. So he's going to come out and he's going to do everything that he can, even if he's just a decoy, because he's such a great shooter. That's going to help this team tonight.
Rebecca, you mentioned that competitive nature of Gordon Hayward, but this entire team showed that following that Game 2 loss. We've heard about the argument, the discrepancy, whatever you want to call it, in the locker room following that loss. And now we've heard that Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown were the two guys most involved with that. But where are the Celtics now after those two losses, after that argument in the locker room?
Well, everything has settled down, Chris. I've talked to multiple team sources, people within the organization, who've told me that yesterday was very calm, that they had to walk through a great film session, and any of those emotions that, quite frankly, you would expect the team to be feeling after that second loss have all dissipated, and now they're just focused on this win tonight. And when you think about it, though, calm heads do need to prevail, and that's going to start with Jason Tatum. I spoke to him recently, and he said for him, he's all about winning, that he heads into every season thinking about how can I win a championship? So I asked him, of course, what does that take? And he gave me all the things that you would expect, like work ethic. But one thing that was interesting that he told me that counts is keeping even keeled out on the floor. Now, we see him do that all the time. He's very surgical in the way that he plays. He doesn't show a lot of emotion. But tonight, the rest of the team is really going to have to follow suit, make sure that they keep their head in the game and keep those emotions in check.
The key phrase there for you is keep their head in the game, because in the first half, they've been all but dominant offensively, building these double-digit leads. But in the second half, they falter. What's been the difference between the Celtics in the first half of games and second half of games in this series?
Yeah, it's really been unbelievable when you watch. It's almost like you're seeing two different teams out there on the floor. And when you take a look at the numbers in the first half, I mean, they're scoring 58 points per game. In the second, it's 46 points per game in that second half. Their turnovers were a big problem in game two. They also struggled against the zone. So that's going to be something that they're going to have to figure out tonight. But in addition to that, you really have to circle Kemba Walker and what he brings to the game, because, of course, we all know how you bust the zone, and that's hitting some big shots from long range. Well, Kemba Walker has been 5 for 20. So if he can be more efficient, that will go a long way in helping this team create that consistency.
Well, Miami also has the best record in the postseason, 10-1. How have they been so effective at the most important time of year?
Yeah, they have just been clicking on all cylinders, and really on all cylinders on and off the court. They're just enjoying their time down here. But one thing that I think is really interesting, they have 6 different players who are averaging in double figures in the playoffs. They're the only team left that has that many guys doing that. So that just shows the collective effort. But what you really have to do is take that one step further. Of those 6 guys, they're all ball handlers. And we saw that the other night. So Jimmy Butler down the stretch was playing the point. I asked him about that after the game, and he told me that the reason why this team is so confident is because they've got 5 different guys who they feel like can handle the ball in late game situations, which gives them so many options. And he said, you know what? When you have that kind of flexibility, that is what makes the game so fun. He said, we're out there smiling, enjoying each other. And even if we're down, we know because of that we can come back in any game. And we've seen that happen twice now.
Yeah, certainly a lot of unselfishness with this particular Miami Heat team. I mean, when their star player takes 11 shots and they win, that's just pretty incredible. Rebecca Harlow, thank you for your time. Enjoy the game. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris.
Sam, let's stay with the business aspect of this particular Game 3. And when I look at the Boston Celtics, what stands out most is they had more turnovers than assists in Game 2. How do they correct that? Because when you think of Boston, you think of a team that knows how to share and take care of the ball.
Well, you just said it, Chris. They're not sharing the basketball. They're making it tough. Look, I'm just going to use Jason Tatum as an example. He is a superstar. He's going to be the MVP candidate. But when you look at him playing against this tough Miami defensive team, they're basically playing a zone defense. And when you watch them, they're forcing the Boston Celtics to shoot tough perimeter shots. And then they're taking away the triple penetration. The thing that the Boston Celtics are going to have to do, they got to move the ball from strong to weak side. They got to get some screen downs, Tatum coming off some screens, because right now they're playing one-on-one basketball. You're not going to beat a great defensive team like Miami Heat, especially when they're playing that matchup zone. You're not going to beat them playing one-on-one basketball. They got to get more movement, get out in transition, look for some easy baskets, attack the rim, get to the free throw line. But until they start moving the basketball, at least 5, 6, 7 passes, Karan will tell you. Karan, what did your coach always tell you? The team that makes the most passes on a possession is going to get the best shots, which it equals winning basketball.
Karan, Sam brought up. Go ahead, Karan.
No, I said 100%. You know, when you look at what Boston is going through, particularly in the second half, you know, Miami is mixing up the defense on that side of the floor, and you have to still attack that zone, whether it's a zone, whether it's man. You can't stand still. You got to keep that activity. Kemba Walker is a threat offensively in the pick and roll in particular, but you can't exhaust the dribble too much where they can sit on some of those things. They're switching, they're blitzing, they're doing a lot of different things. And offensively, you just have to keep that ball popping around, keep cutting, keeping that action, and eventually real estate and options will open up. Not on the first or second option, but particularly on the third, lesser in the shot clock.
Certainly seeing Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker both averaging 8 turnovers a game together combined in this series, an alarming stat for the Boston Celtics. But Sam, it's that zone that you mentioned. Can Gordon Hayward have an effect against that zone, or what can they do to bust that open and be more effective?
Well, first of all, against the zone, they want you to shoot jump shots. That's why the Miami Heat are playing the zone. And Boston has good shooters, but it's different. Look, in this zone right now, you beat a zone with penetration. Where's this opportunity to penetrate? Those are the type of shots that Miami is baiting Boston into taking. Again, where's your opportunity to penetrate? Jimmy Butler right there. Boxes and elbows. Look at Bam Adebayo. Nowhere to go. Dragic stays, keeps coming. Again, look at this Miami zone. Look at them talking, pointing, pushing people back. Nowhere to penetrate. Again, Marcus Smart is trying to find the seams and penetrate, but there's no penetration. And the thing that you have to do, you see Brad Stevens trying to put Tice in the middle. The Boston Celtics are going to have to put a guy like Jason Tatum in the middle, because right now, putting Tice in the middle, he's no threat. You put your best offensive player in the middle, and then once the ball goes in, the defense normally collapse, and then you can kick the ball out to the shooter. And where Gordon Hayward is going to help is 2 things he can do. He's 6'8", so he can shoot over some of the zone, and then his ability to put the ball on the floor to make the zone collapse, and then his ability to pass with his size to find them passing lanes and find his teammate. That's when the ball gets to moving, like Karan said. It's not the first or second pass. You're normally going to get the best shots on that 3rd, 4th, 5th pass, and even sometimes a little later in the shot clock. Not deep, but a little bit later, a little bit more patient. You'll get a chance to get the shots you want, and you'll get a chance to really hurt the Miami Heat zone by offensive rebounding the ball. That's another weakness of playing zone.
Now, Karan, you know this Heat culture well. I mean, this is the team that drafted you. And I look at what Jimmy Butler is doing, and then Bam in this series with the big block and the big third quarter as well in Game 2. How do those 2 players in particular embody that Heat culture and it coming out in this series?
I think this hardest working, best condition, that whole mentality, the mindset of the Miami Heat culture, I think that it embodied everything when you saw that block at the end of the game, by Bam. Just being at the right place. His rotation was crisp. He came to the side, met the offensive player in Jason Tatum at 12 o'clock, and his finish at the rim, his sacrifice of his body. Those guys stand and communicate. Excellent breakdown by Coach Sam Mitchell when he was talking about, look at the communication by Crowder at the top of the zone. Even though he's the zone guy, usually guys will rest on defense, but they're engaged more so than ever because they understand the importance of, communication. That's the only way a zone works, because it's a lot of moving pieces, guys cut behind you, and you have to be on the string. And Miami Heat does that extremely well. And then it also we cannot, talk about all these things defensively without talking about what the offensive prowess of the Miami Heat and where they've been successful at with Goran Dragic. I think he's been playing like just a complete all-star, a superstar in this playoff run. He's the key to their success. If they could slow him down, the Boston Celtics, and just make things a little more difficult for him, it changes the game, because he's been the consistent offensive force for the Miami Heat during this playoff run.
Great point, Karan. He's leading the Heat in scoring at 22 points per game in the postseason. Came off the bench during the regular season, inserted into the starting lineup, and all about getting better on defense.
We knew the first quarter definitely wasn't Laker basketball, Laker defense, and we just had some breakdowns. But it took a quarter for us to kind of figure it out. Not saying that we fully figured them out, because it's too early in the series to say that, but we started to get a better feel, started to get a better rhythm defensively. We started to get some stops in that second quarter and able to build that lead up going into halftime.
This is an opponent we all greatly respect, and save for the comebacks, we respect what they're capable of doing on both ends of the floor. But to see them go 3-1 back-to-back series, I don't think it's ever been done in the history of the NBA. Just shows that this is an historic type of resilient team.
They only shot 42% in that quarter, but they went to the foul line 24 times in one quarter, 24 times in a quarter. How do we defend without fouling? We're not going to beat that team by putting them on the foul line 37 times.
They just controlled the game in the first half, and LeBron does a great job of pushing the pace when he wants to and making those runs seem bigger than they are. But like I said, we just got to stick with it. We were as bad as we played in the first half. We were only down 11, so we were right there, and we weren't even playing our best basketball. So we just take care of some of the detail stuff that we watched the film today. I think we won't have to come back in the fourth quarter as much.
Well, you heard Jamal Murray say it. Push the pace is something the Nuggets wanted to do, but it's the Lakers that did it in Game 1. You see the fast break points, 16 of them, those 33 assists, most this postseason. LeBron James and Rajon Rondo combined for 21 of those 33 assists. Karan, you've seen the Lakers all season. They came out determined to push the pace in Game 1.
I mean, you want to take away the confidence, right from the jump. And I think they did a remarkable job defensively, one, and then also connecting on outside shots. And we know that they're more than capable of controlling the paint. But as you're going to see right here, look at the defensive prowess right here. LeBron securing the rebound. We've been talking about this for 17 years and counting. Him going downhill and guys running and spacing the floor. This time, KCP. Excellent job. Getting to a location, staying there, not clogging up the real estate, and knocking down the shot. Laker defense, Danny Green coming over, 1-1000, 2-9 position. LeBron going downhill again, getting into the teeth of the defense. Easy finish, no shot blocking ability, none whatsoever with that lineup of the Denver Nuggets that they had out there. Gang defense, Rondo comes up with the ball. They run, they secure the basketball. LeBron's looking for the post up. Everyone identifies that. Rondo, with his offensive prowess and understanding as a pure point guard, with all that attention and eyes on LeBron, he finds an open Morris. And then once again, look at this. 1, 2, 3, Lakers. All identified. Look at that length. It's the Dwight Howard AD, throws the football pass. That offense is definitely needed by the Chicago Bears. They do not have a quarterback. Excellent pass by AD. Easy two. And then once again, the defense on the opposing end, LeBron comes down, 2 hands for safety and a safe landing. And that's after tweaking his ankle somewhat in the course of the game early. He was still able to finish that strong.
Sam, the words that Karan used there, first of all, taking a shot at the Bears was hilarious because we know he's a Green Bay Packers fan, so there's that. But, Sam, bigger than the box score, the two guys I want to focus on with you, Rajon Rondo and Dwight Howard, the KG vets that have played in big games in their careers. You talk about being bigger than the box score. You see it's 7 points, 9 assists for Rondo, 13, 3, and 2 blocks for Dwight, but they played much larger than those stats would suggest.
Yeah, these two guys have played the best basketball I've seen in 5 years from both of them. Dwight Howard, first of all, what he's doing in pick and roll defense, look, he's playing two guys. He's stopping the initial penetration by the point guard, and then he's getting able to get back to Nikola Jokic and be physical with him. And then you look at Rajon Rondo, the way he controls the tempo when they put the ball in his hand, his defense, he's keeping the pace going. These two veteran players are playing like they found the fountain of youth because Dwight Howard blocking shots, scoring, Rondo leading the break, getting to the paint, finishing, knocking down wide open shots. This is some extra bonus play that Frank Vogel could not have depended on this late in the season. But these two guys right here, man, they're going to be the reason why the Lakers right now playing with such confidence and so much depth. When you have those guys playing the way they're playing, and then you look at the ability to use your fouls smartly. When you go back and look at the game, the Lakers and Nuggets were almost even in fouls, but it's the type of fouls you commit. Denver was fouling the Lakers in the act of shooting. The Lakers were using their fouls when they wasn't in bonus, being physical, knocking guys off their spot, keeping them in front. So this is going to be an interesting matchup tonight to see how the Denver Nuggets adjust to the refereeing, and then if the Lakers can keep that pace going and keep that physicality on this young Denver Nuggets team.
And also trying to figure out how to slow down one Anthony Davis. We forget, because he's such a decorated player, Karan, that this was his first Western Conference Finals game. And look at that elite list. Lou Alcindor, also known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robertson, Wilt Chamberlain, Dirk Nowitzki, only guys to put up 35 points, 10 rebounds in their first career Conference Finals playoff game. Karan, you played with that last guy, Dirk Nowitzki, who did it 17 years ago. AD had that jumper working, kind of like Dirk in game one.
Hey, listen, he's a guy that's a 7-footer pretty much that can go out there and put the ball on the floor. He can ISO you. He's quick enough. He's fast enough. He's explosive enough that every time that he faces up, it's just pretty much a mismatch. I don't know no one at that size actively out there healthy that can guard him. And it's a mismatch every night. And I think the Lakers have identified that and recognizes that. And, you know, people are talking a lot of noise about the MVP. Giannis was hands down the MVP of the regular season. Let's not get that twisted. LeBron is the best player on the planet. But also with the addition of Anthony Davis to the Los Angeles Lakers, averaging 26, 9, and 3, or whatever the case may be, I think that he is and should have a strong consideration for some MVP talks, because the way that he dominated, the way that he kind of revamped the culture here in Los Angeles, he's done wonders. And you know what? He's a pleasure to play with, and he's so young still.
Yeah, Anthony Davis leading the Lakers in points, field goal percentage, rebounds, and blocks. Karan, that speaks to your point. But Nikola Jokic played just 25 minutes. That's the fewest minutes he's played in a postseason game this year. Jamal Murray played 29 minutes. Why? Because both of them had 3 fouls in the second quarter. And the Lakers really went right after those guys, Sam. So how do they correct that to make sure that their star players stay on the court?
Well, first of all, those two guys got to play defense with their feet, stop playing with their hands. Second, offensively, they got to create some space. Right there, when the Joker set those screens, he can't move, he can't hit, and he can't get into all that buffoonery with Dwight Howard. The referees in this series are looking for all those little tricks, all the little hooks, getting into guys, taking their space away from them, not letting them come down vertical. So if I'm the Joker and Jamal Murray, I'm going to focus on basic basketball. When the Joker sets their high screening roll, if I was him, I would pop. Murray's got to be aggressive, north and south, attack. And once you get Dwight Howard to engage, or those bigs engage, now you move the ball and you force the Lakers to play 2-on-3 on the weak side.
Well, certainly the Denver Nuggets trying to come back in this series. They've done it twice already, 3-1 in their last 2 rounds. First team to ever do that. There's another Butler in Miami. We know.
NBA Game Time is brought to you by State Farm. Talk to an agent today at 1-800-STATE-FARM.
The pride of Rice High School in New York City, Kemba Walker, 23 points in Game 2, but also 5 costly turnovers. The Celtics down 0-2 to the Heat after blowing a 17-point lead. They also had some issues in the locker room following that loss. Let's check in with the Celtics.
Reports of yelling in the locker rooms and things being thrown. Marcus obviously exited emotional. Can you just kind of speak to that scene?
Plays with passion. He's full of fire, and that's what I love about him most, to be honest. You know, he has that desire and that will, and we need him to continue to have that. You know, it's ups and downs with families all the time, but you know, we embrace each other for who we are, and who Marcus is, I love him for it.
What happens in the locker room, we got to stay in the locker room. It's not supposed to come out here and talk about, you know, what we talk about as a team after a win or a loss. I mean, we're frustrated, but it's team sports. You're not supposed to be happy we down 0-2.
We believe in one another. We know what we're capable of, and I think that's the part that's so fun when we're out there hooping. Yeah, we get down at times, but we never hang our heads because we know if we play the right way, we give ourselves a chance to win.
We got grit. That's about all I can tell you. We got grit, man. You know, I'm happy to be on this team with these guys, but we don't want to keep doing that. That is not our goal, to keep being down 12 or 13 points.
We in the conference finals. That's all we need to hear to be locked in. That's all it takes, you know. In both games, we had moments where we had lapses, and that team over there is together for 48 minutes, and we got to be together for 48 minutes.
And we're all in together now. We welcome in Sekou Smith from down in Orlando. Sekou, you heard Jason Tatum say it at the very end. The Miami Heat, they're together, all in together for the entire game, where the Boston Celtics are not right now. What do you think of his assessment of their situation?
Well, Chris, I think these guys understand it better than anybody. When you've shared a locker room all season long with these guys, you know when you're fractured, you know when you're not playing your best or when things are off. And I think they understand that. They understand the predicament they're in. They're down 0-2 to a Miami team that's really been basically the best team down here in the playoffs. One loss is all they have. So they're in a tough spot right now. You either come together or you get pushed to the brink if you're the Boston Celtics right now.
Sekou, Sam here.
What's happening, Sam? How are you?
Yeah, hey, Sekou, look, when you look at this boss, everybody's making all this talk over the blow up in the Celtics locker room. Explain to the fans out there that, one, when you're down 0-2, when you very well should be up 2-0, the frustration that boils over. And two, this is a good thing for this Boston Celtics team, because that lets you know that they understand that they're just as good as Miami, and in their mind, they should be up 2-0.
Yeah, it galvanizes them, I think. I don't feel like there's been any emotional letdown by Boston. I just think they've been outplayed, and they know that. And once you recognize that, you get frustrated. You know, with an opportunity to win those first two games and you lose them, you realize now that you're dealing with a team that's every bit as talented as you are, but maybe it has a little better focus and drive right now. So the challenge for Boston, going forward, Sam, is to scrap for every second of these next couple games just to get back to even in this series, because you can't afford to go down 3-0. That's a death sentence in this bubble to get down like that and expect to be able to fight out of it.
Well, Sekou, let's head out to the Western. Sorry, go ahead, Karan.
Hey, Sekou, Karan Butler here, bro. I just wanted to ask you, with Gordon Hayward possibly returning to the lineup of the Boston Celtics, what's your expectations for him tonight in the ball club?
Yeah, well, that's interesting, CB. I was watching him warm up, and, he could be an X factor for him tonight, if he plays well. But if he doesn't, you run the risk of, furthering, the issues you've already had. People might forget how big Gordon Hayward is. He's another big creator on the perimeter that's going to cause some defensive matchups, for Miami to change. But you don't know how many minutes you could get out of him. You don't know what his wind is like. He's been in quarantine. He hadn't been here. He's coming off an injury. So there's a whole lot that you don't know in terms of what you get from him tonight. And you don't have the luxury of easing him back into this thing. You're either playing him or you're not. Brad Stevens talked about him being available as best he could tell. Now it's going to be about whether or not Gordon Hayward can come in and really give you a spark. Can he make an impact, scoring the ball, and being a factor for you if you're Boston? Because if he can't, that's one more chess move that you don't have available.
Sekou, let's head to the Western Conference Finals now, and the Lakers looked, at their best. I mean, dominant inside. Let's go to AD and Dwight Howard combining for 50 points in that Game 1 against the Nuggets. Is that something they can expect from those two, to be that dominant inside, or a combination of any two players to get that production?
Yeah, I mean, you know that LeBron and AD are going to give you, high-level production. The Dwight Howard piece was a bonus. That was a, turning the clock back and getting the active, bouncy, physical Dwight that you would need to deal with Nikola Jokic. I think the most important thing for the Lakers, and everybody should recognize, is that they got veterans on that team and they smell the opportunity in front of them. They can sense, that if they can get through this round, they got a path to a championship with LeBron, AD, Rondo, Kuzma, Dwight Howard, all these guys, Morris. They have a lot of pieces that you would need to help you win this whole thing, and they're that much closer to it getting that first game against Denver. And if they don't feel like Denver can match up with them personnel-wise, especially up front, you're going to see Dwight and JaVale McGee playing with real energy and trying to make an impact with every second they're on the floor.
Well, LeBron...
Yeah, Sekou, I know that.
Yeah, LeBron receives just 16 of 101 first place votes in the MVP voting. Now, let's just point out he's the only other guy to receive first place votes, but he wasn't exactly happy when he found out that Giannis received 85 of those 101.
Pissed me off. That's my true answer. It pissed me off because out of 101 votes, I got 16 first place votes. That's what pissed me off more than anything. You know, not saying that the winner wasn't deserving of the MVP, but that pissed me off. Let's not get it twisted. I'm great. It's just the voting scale is a little weird to me sometimes. I mean, if you take 2012, if you just stick with me here, 2012, 2013, I had a chance to be Defensive Player of the Year and also MVP in the same season. And that year, Marc Gasol was rewarded Defensive Player of the Year. But he made second team all defense. Okay, so that doesn't make sense. It's like being the MVP of the league, but you make second team all NBA. That's when I really started to look at things a little bit kind of like differently. I was like, how does that even make any sense? It's like being rookie of the year, but you make second team all rookie. And it's a weird thing sometimes that I don't know how much we are really watching the game of basketball, or are we just in the narration mode, the narrative.
Well, LeBron James also on the top of this list, tied with Larry Bird and Jerry West for most times finishing as the runner-up to MVP, and he seems like he has some real beef with voters out there. And since we have one on the show, you, Sekou, what do you say to LeBron and his gripe with you and people like you?
Well, I say that, I was one of those 85 evil voters that didn't put him number one on my ballot.
86, by the way. 86.
And it wasn't a slight to LeBron.
Just evil.
It wasn't disrespecting him. It was a nod to Giannis in the season he had. And I think anytime we go about trying to separate great players who are in that MVP conversation, it comes down to a choice. Giannis had the most efficient season basically that anybody's ever had, and he improved off of an MVP season from a year ago. The narrative, if we had one in this situation, would have been 35-year-old LeBron leading the league in assists in his 17th season. That was the strongest narrative, if you ask me, of anybody's MVP case. But I understand it. Listen, I wouldn't want LeBron to feel any other way than slighted. If you're the greatest player on earth and you think you're the best player on the planet, as he has been for so long, you should feel slighted. You should want that award every year, whether you admit it or not. So I got no problem with it. I welcome anybody to look at this process and tell me there's a better way of doing it. Giannis had an outstanding season, and it's a regular season award. That's it.
Well, there you go, Sekou. Thanks for breaking it down. The Scribe with the vibe. We know you got to get off that court because they got a game to play, man. You're in their way. We'll talk to you another time, Sekou.
No doubt. Thanks, fellas.
So, Karan, there's a part of this discussion that's interesting when we think about the difference between the best player and the MVP. Those seem to be two different discussions. So when we talk about LeBron as the best player in the league and Giannis as the MVP, can we understand that those are two different things? Because we had Draymond Green on the show last night, and that's kind of what he said, is that he looks at LeBron as being the best player in the world. Do you disagree with that? Because I saw you make a face.
I mean, he has been the best player in the world for quite some time, and it still is currently today. What happens is that when he talked about the narrative that continues to change is one year we may go by, the stat stuffers and who's putting up astronomical numbers. Another year we may go by who's the best player on the best team. Another year we may go by the body of work and the momentum that individual created a year prior that led up to that moment. It's just like it continues to changes year by year, season by season. And rightfully so. It's a lot of guys that's extremely worthy of that. When you look at some of the names on that list, Larry Bird, runner-up 4 times, LeBron James 4 times, 5 times, Kevin Durant multiple times, James Harden. It happens. This season in particular, and I've covered the Lakers all season long. The Lakers led themselves to being number 1 in the Western Conference. Like I said, Anthony Davis could have even been, on that list, and he should be upset somewhere because he didn't get enough recognition for some of the damage and work that he's done this season. But look, it is what it is. Giannis deserves it. Less minutes since his rookie season. He put up great numbers. It had nothing to do with the playoffs, but he did a remarkable job closing out this year. So he got the MVP, and congrats to him.
Sam, the voters have been on your side before as well, as you were voted Coach of the Year. So, I mean, there are people that benefit from this. It's not just an argument of people who don't win the award.
Wait a minute. Well, thank you for giving me a backhanded compliment, my friend. I mean, hey,
your narrative was great.
I'm sure
Sam
some people
Mitchell,
who didn't know,
motivator,
but those 30 people who voted for me in 2007 that didn't know anything about basketball, I really appreciate it.
Hey, Sam, if I had a vote, I would vote for you. Well, it looks like we still have actual basketball to talk about. When we come back, it's Bam Adebayo and the Miami Heat looking to take a commanding 3-0 lead in the Eastern Conference. Quick predictions for tonight's game. Sam, we'll go with you first.
Boston Celtics, they're desperate. Gordon Hayward's going to play tonight. They need everything they can get. Move the ball. Boston Celtics.
Who wins, Karan?
Boston Celtics better win. Otherwise, this series is completely over. Gordon Hayward back. He should be something that's much needed. Scoring off the bench, they get over the hump.
Hey, I'm just